are all very welcome to the channel Crimes Real Facts. Before receiving today's case, you like the work here of the channel, click like on share our content, also activates the notifications bell, and if possible let order in this video. These 3 simple steps will ensure that you receive notifications of new videos of the unusual close. Then settle and let's go to the facts. The is the city of Rio de Janeiro, the place, the station Pedro Segundo, current Central Station. The date, end of 1959, is when NEYDE Maria Maia Lopes, then with 22 years old, single and commercial, meets in public transport and falls in love with Antonio Couto Araujo, the driver, professional employee of the Commission of the Vale do São Francisco, that was located in the neighborhood of Fatima. Antonio wastes no time with young life for a car ride, and soon a loving relationship begins. From their frequent meetings occurred over 6 months, was always at lunchtime that the couple took refuge in an apartment of a friend. When NEYDE discovered that she was a married man and the father of 2 daughters, a condition that he had kept secret since the beginning of the romance, she started to demand that Antonio should separate from his wife, even though, at first, he did not want her to be the other woman. Even though he initially agreed with this imposition, he still said that it would take a certain amount of time for someone to leave home and move in with her. It is understood that the absence of any initiative on Antonio's part to offer NEYDE the role of wife led him to devise and execute a methodical plan that would result in the death of Antonio and Nuza's daughter, because it was neither well received nor well received. Made a visit to his house, introducing herself to Nuza, wife of Antonio, his rival and former schoolmate. Even though the latter identity did not remember, the other ended up receiving him friendly. Then Contour is interested romantically in the brother Denilson, and this excuse was that possibility to the development of a certain intimacy between the 2 women, so much that neither held or repeated visits to the family of Antonio on these occasions. In addition to getting to know details of the routine of the family, nor also took the opportunity to create ties with the children. Solange and Tanya, daughters of Nilza, presenting them with sweets and toys was a conversation between friends. NEYDE discovered that the great passion of Antonio was his firstborn daughter Tanya Maria. It was during one of these conversations among friends that NEYDE discovered that Antonio's great passion was his firstborn daughter Tanya Maria, who was 4 years old. Elected as the target, here it is possible to realize in the 2 understandings of this choice. According to the words of psychoanalyst and forensic expert Wilson de Lira Chevabin Corregidor of the case, first, with the girl dead, there was no more reason for the permanence of Antonio in the cell phone being able, he abandoned the marital home. Second, apply Antonio a deserved punishment and revenge. The prosecutor also clarified that NEYDE, with the death of her lover's daughter, actually needed to reach him and wanted to kill him alive, but she didn't want to finish him off. She even asked an employee where the birds took those bones, and the answer received was that the dismembered bodies were consumed and the fragments were consumed everywhere. Important inside the macabre fantasy that she elaborated, clearly determined to kill, was still during this period when Kennedy bought a .22 caliber gun, an enchantment. When in conversation with coworkers she got to know about the reduced firepower of this revolver, she went back to the store and exchanged it for a more powerful one in .32 caliber armament. Unfortunately, and we can say that a set of circumstances conspired for the success of her plan of music, and on June 30, 1960, the fateful date, Teninha wanted to stay at home and repeatedly asked her mother to do so. The truth: for the last time the family lived in Piedade, a suburb of Rio de Janeiro, a neighborhood where Jomer Institute was located at Rua Goncalo Coelho 223, where the child was studying and where there were no telephones. She called a house next door to the school pretending to be Nilza Coelho Araujo, Deninha's mother, and asked the school board to give her permission for a friend called Odette to take the girl out of school in the middle of the afternoon to take her to the doctor's at about 2 p.m. The Aunt Odette, in fact, presented herself at the school, and without any help from her aunt, NEYDE could not find a telephone. We as distant observers able to see that this attitude, although serious, was not characterized as a point of no return are in this story that did not even write, because it would still be possible to abort her plan of shoulder with everything. She did not interrupt it, and the size exit of the school taken by NEYDE's hands started a countdown of the last 7 hours of life of the girl that followed innocently by her author's side towards her own execution. From that moment on, 2 stories unfolded. In parallel, only a few minutes after the child was taken from the Josmer Nilza Institute, the mother arrived carrying her daughter's snack and despaired at her disappearance, despite what the writer Arnaldo Niski, one of the guided sources researched, explained. That there was no such danger here was evident to all the mother and school staff, that there was a perverse premeditation of an organized intentionality in Tanya's rapid disappearance aggravated by the vulnerability of her for years. Nilza, in tears, looked for the daughter and the woman in the vicinity of the school. But in vain. Antonio, Taninha's father, was also informed by his wife about the misfortune that had occurred and decided to quickly register the case at the 24th police station in the Encantado district. He found the family's house and talked to Nilza, and then went to the 24th police station in order to continue the journalistic coverage of the crime, when Tanya's parents announced the facts to Commissioner Magalhães. Simultaneously, Saulo Gomez, who had talked privately with Antonio, already knew of the existence and address of his mistress, as well as of the various emotions and intimidations that this woman had done, which obviously made her a person of interest to the police as suspect. The police would arrive, that is, after the victim's father, leaving his shyness aside, openly confessed to the investigating commissioner and his own wife the existence of the extramarital affair, and the details of NEYDE's personality, whose physical appearance perfectly matched the description of the painting the newspapers of the day after the crime had detailed. In apartment 201, the suspect's father informed the police that his daughter had been away since 1 p.m. and that she would probably be home soon. As soon as NEYDE entered the house, she was given the voice of arrest. The police officers responded to the girl's request to clean her shoes and use the bathroom before accompanying them to the police station, where she was to give her statement. In the bag she was carrying were found 2 guns, a .32 caliber revolver already mentioned, and a .38 caliber, also a lock of hair wrapped in a piece of paper. When she arrived at the police station, a triple recognition occurred. Antonio identified her as NEYDE, and her lover Nilza identified her as his ex-mistress. The director of the school identified her as Odette, who will take the girl away from the school, even though it would be necessary to understand all this theatrical staging. The most important question at this moment was, where is the little plug? The research sources are unanimous in describing NEYDE as cold and cynical in her answers, totally denying knowing where the girl was and fantasizing a plot in which she herself would have been a victim of blackmail. The interrogation after some time was interrupted by the news that the body of a partially charred girl had been located near a slaughterhouse in the PENHA neighborhood. Immediately to this location, the waiting commissioner suspected EA of murder, and no longer quickly, and the lists were already at dawn, and NEYDE competed, approaching the remains of the child, asking to return to the police station, promising that there she would reveal everything that had occurred, the clothes even though partially destroyed by the fire, to allow recognition of Taninha's corpse once at the police station, nor to allow recognition of her. According to the words of journalist Saulo Gomez, an impressive resistance cold calm, denying, and denying. Then this reporter that high people since the beginning of the delegates' treaties authorized her to interview NEYDE. It was at that moment live on the radio that she decided to reveal in detail what she had done, assuming the authorship of the BARBORA and declaring that in truth she would have liked to kill Antonio Ayama's whole family, that unfortunately she did not have time to do it to prevent the invasion of the 24th PD by the revolted crowd that threatened to lynch him. During this transfer, about 300 people depredated a police car that was used to throw NEYDE out of the way. She was transferred to Lagos Brito Penitentiary in Bangu. Now it is necessary to go back in time and present the second story that happened simultaneously with the search for the kidnapped girl, that is, the protagonist events reported by NEYDE Music when she left the central police station. NEYDE Music, when she left the school with the little girl in her hands, NEYDE immediately took a cab and went in the direction of the PENHA neighborhood to wash her clothes. A friend of her named Zelia, and a local residential complex where for hours they talked about the needs, and NEYDE declared that she was taking care of the child with a favor for her mother. NEYDE borrowed a pair of scissors and cut a lock of the little girl's hair before Giselle's incredulous look. The lock was carefully kept in NEYDE's purse. According to her, it would later be presented to the victim's mother during a private event, and later be Festival of San Sebastián, Spain in November 2015, was included in the list.